Morning. It is time for Tuesday's talk. And today, August 15th, we're going to talk about the idea of inclusion or being inclusive. So, in light of the recent events that we have had in Virginia, with the violence and the attacks and the hatred and the racism that still is so prevalent in this country, we need to turn our ear toward this idea of inclusion. So often, especially in the West, it seems that we focus on the ways that we're different. We look at other people and we point out the things that are different from us. And that is primarily a Western thing, actually. If you're out in the East, in India, in other countries, there is a whole lot more focus on communities and how we have things in common, the commonalities of human beings, the shared awareness, the shared joys, the shared desires of humans and of the human condition. And so when you're out in the East, they have this saying called Namaste, which essentially means the God in me honors the God in you, and that when the God in me connects with the God in you, there's only one of us. So when you connect with somebody on the deepest level, what you realize is that we're all the same, that we all want the same things. And so this notion of inclusiveness is really on the forefront of my mind this morning. So there's a Buddhist saying that talks about the fact that a bunch of blind men approached an elephant from all different places on the elephant. And one might have had his tail, and he described the elephant as a rope or something very, very long and thin, like a rope. And then there was another person who was standing at the leg of the elephant. And when he touched the leg, he said it's something very much like a tree. An elephant is very much like a tree. And the other blind person had its hand on the belly of the elephant and put its hand up on the belly and said, an elephant is very much like a wall. And the point of this whole thing is that they were all touching an elephant. So they were all touching the same thing, but they were touching it from a different place. And they were focusing only on the part that they were touching. And so the essence of that parable is that we all come from different places, but it's all the same elephant. So if you want to talk about religions, they're all beautiful for the most part. I mean, they're all trying to seek God or truth or source or whatever you want to call it. And so often we find ourselves focusing on how one religion is different from another religion. This idea of inclusiveness is when we make a little bit of a flip of consciousness and we start focusing on what is alike. So, what do we have in common with other people? What do we have in common with other religions? What does our belief system have that's similar, that can connect? Or when you're in conversations with people, you're making an effort to talk more about the things that you share, the things that you are finding in common with each other, and connecting at those points instead of always discriminating and separating and dividing and comparing and all of those things that just keep us all separate and keep us all feeling so different from each other. So this notion of inclusion, I'd love you to take a little bit of time this week, meditate on this idea of an inclusive world, of a world that John Lennon talks about in the song Imagine, where there is no heaven and no hell and no religion, nothing that separates us, but only things that keep us together, things that connect us, the things like wanting joy and peace and happiness. So if we can learn to be more inclusive, to look a little deeper for where we can agree with each other instead of focusing so much on where we disagree. So that would be my lesson for today, to think about this word inclusion and the idea of inclusiveness. And as you go out about your day to day, find ways as you encounter people to look a little bit deeper and find out that we really are very similar and we really all want the same things. And many of us who are born with white skin, we may have a privilege in that way because we're automatically have a majority and we automatically have this sense of commonality. Whereas if you have a dark colored skin, you might feel separate and you might feel different. So maybe make that effort, especially if your skin is white, to look a little bit deeper today, to really try to look in somebody's eyes and find that being inside of them that wants the same things in this life as you do. So that's my lesson for today, this notion of inclusiveness. Namaste, the God in me truly honors the God in every one of you. Have an amazing day. Take care. Love you. Mwah.